Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Anjali Sharma from University of Delhi. Today we are going to talk on module Global and National Energy Demand Supply Policy and Security under the paper Energy Related Materials. So after completing this module, the students will be able to understand the global national energy demand, supply, policy and security. We'll also study about India, which is a growing economy, and we'll try to understand energy landscape, electricity demand supply situation and policy landscape. Now, the global and national energy demand, supply, policy, and security means in recent years, global energy shortage and ecological pollution problems have created opportunities for fuel cells to replace the existing technologies in variety of applications. Some common areas of application of fuel cells include power for stationary, portable, and transport applications. They are used to provide electricity and heat in a large stationary applications. They are also used to provide power in areas which are difficult to serve by the national grid. In sectors like telecom, they find use in providing backup power. Another promising area of application is their use in portable devices like mobile phone. Due to their light weight and higher operating times, they are seen as a good alternatives to solid batteries. Their application in transport finds its roots in their ability to meet the stringent emission norms. As far as the world fuel cell industry is concerned, most of the activities are concentrated in regions of North America, Japan, and Europe. The areas of expertise range from R&D to a component manufacturer and system integration. Fundamental and applied R&D is carried out in universities as well as by commercial players. A large number of corporations are involved in component manufacturing and system integration. The governments in these regions provide strong funding for the development of fuel cell sector. India's fuel cell industry is not quite developed as compared to the above mentioned regions. Even then it can be considered as a very important and emerging market. An economy growing at a fast pace and a country in need of energy to sustain the growth are the factors that strengthen India's position as a prospective market for fuel cells. New national energy policies of the country that promote the growth of hydrogen and fuel cell technologies to add to the market potential of fuel cells in India. India, a growing economy. India is the second most populous country in the world and the fourth largest economy by purchasing power parity. India has seen dramatic economic growth over the past decade, with GDP growth rates going as high as 9% in the year 2007 to 2008. Although, due to the global economic slowdown, Indian economy has also slowed GDP growth rate of about 6.1% down from its high performance, but still it was one of the few economies where impact of this downturn was minimum. India's growth rate was among the highest in the world along with the China. This high growth rate essentially signifies upliftment of large number of population from poverty to India's growing middle class. This growing middle class is causing a consumer boom in Indian market which is contributing to India's growth. Agricultural sector still employs about 60% of population. A growing service industry is the largest contributor to India's GDP, followed by industrial and agricultural sector. Despite robust economic growth, India continues to face many major problems. One of the major challenges that India is facing to sustain its high levels of economic growth is lack of an effective infrastructure that can support its large population. A provision for reliable power supply and a network for energy supply to India's industrial and transportation sector are the two key issues that need to be addressed. Now students, let us see about the energy landscape. India is world's sixth largest economic consumer, accounting for almost 3.4% of the global energy consumption. Due to continuous high growth rates seen over the past few years, the demand for energy has been constantly growing in the economy. To sustain the growth rate for the next 20 years, India needs to increase its primary energy supply to 3 to 4 times. By 2030, the power generation capacity must increase to about 8 lakh megawatt from current levels to about 1 lakh 60,000 megawatt. You can see on the screen that the major India's dependence is on fossil fuels. About 76% of the electricity produced in India is generated by thermal power plants, 21% by hydroelectric power plants, and almost 2 to 3% by nuclear power plants. India's fuel mix is heavily dependent on hydrocarbons. So the figure given on screen shows the contribution of various fuels in supply of energy. This heavily fossil fuel dependent fuel mix of India raises concern over energy security of India, particularly regarding imported oil. The main challenge facing India's energy sector is to increase and improve the delivery of energy services to various sections of the economy. A problem of disparity in demand and supply of energy is another big issue that needs to be addressed. Electricity demand supply situation. So, despite an ambitious rural electrification program and huge additions in power generation capacities, millions of Indians still have no access to electricity, while 80% of Indian villages have at least an electricity line. Just 44% of rural households have access to electricity. The gap between electricity supply and demand nationwide averages up to 16% at peak time. According to government figures, 25% according to energy estimates. And according to the Planning Commission of India, around 6,000 million people, more than that the entire population of the European Union, are not even on the national grid. In some states like poverty hit Jharkhand, 90% of rural households have no electricity and still use oil lamps for light. India's industry incurs a direct loss of nearly 9 billion USD due to shortage of power. The loss amounts to 1% of India's GDP. The highest loss is incurred by the power intensive sectors like manufacturing, which account for 35% of the total loss, small and medium enterprises, second highest at 16%, hospital and hotel, retail at 12%, real estate and infrastructure at 10%. Apart from high levels of disparity in demand supply situation, India has other challenges in its overall energy landscape. These include pollution and growing concern over energy security. Air pollution, in particular, is a concern in India's some big cities like New Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and some other urban cities. Measures like restraining the use of gasoline and diesel vehicles had been taken to address the environmental degradation problems. New Delhi has converted its public transport system, including city buses and three-wheelers, to CNG. This CNG is derived from domestic natural gas, providing energy security. Similarly, cities in Kolkata and Chandigarh have also converted their large auto rickshaw fleets to run on LPG. Still, measures to build a more sustainable energy infrastructure should be taken, and this has been realized by Indian government. Now let us understand the policy landscape. India's policy regarding fuel cells and hydrogen development is largely governed by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. The authority, being quite active, have set up a national hydrogen energy board and a roadmap in 2006. The board set up 5 expert groups on a hydrogen production, storage, power, transport and system integration. It provided an integrated blueprint for the long-term public and private efforts required for hydrogen energy development inside the country. This roadmap was one of the measures taken in a series to improve energy supply situation in India. The 2003 Electricity Act was responsible for developing an overall framework for renewable energy. The 2005 National Electricity Policy recognized renewable as a key option for areas where national grid is not feasible or cost effective. The broad objectives of India's National Hydrogen Energy Program are reduce dependence on imported petroleum products, promote use of diverse, domestic and sustainable new and renewable energy sources, provide electricity to remote, rural and far-flung areas, promote hydrogen as a fuel for transport and power generation, reduce carbon emission from energy production and consumption, and lastly, increase reliability and efficiency of electricity generation. The National Hydrogen Energy Roadmap proposed two major initiatives in its Vision 2020. Prioritized Action Plan. The Green Initiative for Future Transport, that is GIFT, aims to develop hydrogen-powered IC engine and fuel cell vehicle ranging from small car to big vehicle through different phases of development and demonstration. The Green Initiative for Power Generation, that is GIP, was to develop hydrogen power turbine and fuel cell based decentralized power generating systems. Figure given on the screen shows the waves of technological progress and world business cycle sourced by Vidya-mitra in 1998. So initially there was an era of steam engine age where steam engines were used to be run on coal and iron. Then came railways, cement and photography, then electricity, telephone, auto engine, diesel engine and automobile. Then came the electronic era where plastics, spacecraft, nuclear fission, electronics were in the boom. Now finally in 2000 the era of light came where energy efficiency, solar energy, hydrogen, ceramics, lasers, information, communication were focused. Now the figure shown on the screen displays the land transport source. So in 1770s, land transportation was carried out by horses which were dependent on hay, and the source for hay was agriculture, and again agriculture was dependent on sunlight. Then in 1840 the land transportation moved to steam locomotive which were dependent on wood, and the wood from forest was dependent on sunlight. Then in 1910 the land transportation of steam locomotive shifted to coal from wood, and those coal were dependent on coal mine and coal fields. Then in 1980 the land transportation shifted to internal combustion automobile which were based on gasoline, which were again based on oil refineries and crude oil. Then by 2050 the land transportation will completely be dependent on fuel cell vehicles which will be dependent on hydrogen and which can be easily generated from steam methane reforming using natural gas, either by coal treatment from coal or by electrolysis from either sunlight, hydro, biomass, wind or uranium. Now let us see trend in crude discoveries, consumption and price with time. So crude oil was discovered in 1960 with 60 GBBL per year. In 1980 it was 30 GBBL per year. In 2000 it came down to 10 GBBL per year, and by 2020 it would be 5 GBBL per year. So crude oil consumption in the year 1960 was 25 into 10 raised to power 19 joules per year. In 1980 it rises to 120 into 10 raised to power 19 joules per year. In 2000 it was 160 into 10 raised to power 19 joule per year, and by 2020 it will rise to 200 into 10 raised to power 19 joules per year. So the crude oil prices will also be varying according to the oil consumption. In 1960, the crude oil price was $20 per BBL, where BBL stands for barrels of oil equivalent. In 1980, it was $55 per BBL. In 2000, it decreased to 30 USD per BBL. Now, the recent trends of decrease in crude oil quantity every year, we need to look out for alternatives such as natural gas, biomass, solar, water, or nuclear. And the most important is the hydrogen because it can be easily used for transportation, storage, and easy in dispensing and can be easily used in fuel cells. Now let us see the National Hydrogen Energy Roadmap Vision of 2020, which has been laid by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy in 2006. So first is Green Initiatives for Future Transport, which is GIFT. So hydrogen cost at delivery point at rupees 60 to 70 per kg. Hydrogen storage capacity to be 9 weight%. Development of safety regulations, legislations, codes and standards. 10 lakh hydrogen fueled vehicles will be on road. 7 lakh 50,000 2 to 3 wheelers will be there. 1 lakh 50,000 cars or taxis will be there and 1 lakh buses or vans will be there. Next initiative is Green Initiative for Power Generation or GIP. So hydrogen bulk storage methods and pipeline methods to be in place. Support infrastructure including large number of dispensing stations. 1000 megawatt hydrogen based power generating capacity to be set up, where 50 megawatt small IC engine standalone generators will be there. 50 megawatt standalone fuel cell power packs will be there and 900 megawatt aggregate capacity centralized plants will be there. So students, now let us summarize what we have learnt in this module. We have seen the global and national energy demand, supply, policy and security. We have then studied about the India's growing economy, energy landscape and also studied about electricity demand, power supply and policy landscape. Thank you.